So good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. So today we continue our webinars with the series on the DOE FOA for advancing the U.S. thin film solar photovoltaics. And today what we're going to be focusing on is how do we write a compelling application in response to this particular FOA and understanding the evaluation criteria. So if you don't know me, I'm the owner founder of OpSpot, which is a consulting company helping the small businesses with their innovations and finding commercialization strategies, particularly leveraging government funding and the SBIR STTR program for small businesses. And so for today, we're going to be giving a quick overview of the funding opportunity with regards to the thin film. And we're going to look at the application submission process and the review criteria. And of course, for more information, please do make sure that you read the full solicitation. And also, if you have still further questions, you can also come to our office hours. So by now, if you're still interested in this FOA, you should have submitted a concept paper a few weeks ago. And keep in mind that you have about 3.5 weeks, more or less, for the full application. So it's coming up quickly. Don't leave to do it till the end. The ERE performs the eligibility, and all the materials have to be submitted through the ERE exchange. You should also by now have submitted an application and registered with the SAM.gov and should have a unique identity identifier, UEI. Keep in mind that you also will have a control number. Keep that handy because all the files you submit will have to be marked with that control number. So a little bit of key information. So the agency for this announcement, as you know, is the DOE, specifically the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, or EERE, and the Solar Energy Technologies Office, or SETO, who provides the research and development for and you're going to have to forgive me, I can never pronounce that word correctly, perovskite photovoltaics and cadmium telluride, or CDTE, PV technologies. We're going to be looking at industrial R&D projects for the perovskite PV, and also industrial and demonstration projects for the cadmium telluride. So we're looking to improve the commercial viability and market share for these technologies. Eligible applicants have to be for-profit domestic entities. Keep in mind that if you are a foreign entity, getting exceptions are very difficult, or if you as a for-profit domestic U.S. company working with subcontractors that are foreign will also be a challenge, and you do have to request an exception, and there's a process for it. You're also encouraged to form teams. I believe by now there should have been, or there is, a teams partnering link, probably found through the ERE exchange, but I do recommend that you have a good partner in this instead of going solo because of the complexity and the scope of the project. All of the work has to be performed in the United States. If you think you need to do anything outside, please do reach out to the ERE as soon as possible. And only new applications. There's no resubmissions here. And these are in the awards are in the form of cooperative agreements, mainly because of the cost share requirements. So here's a little bit of background. Currently, The technologies provided are based on the crystalline silicon or CCI, SIPV. And so the DOE is looking to diversify, in particular using two thin film PV technologies, the metal halide perovskite PV and the cadmium telluride PV. And the idea here is how do we increase the scalability, bankability, durability, and the development timelines. And so keep in mind that if you are going to submit a proposal for either one of these topics, that you're looking to overcome the current challenges of the crystalline silicon. So how are you going to do it? And again, the goal is to prove scalability, durability, cost competitive, and reducing that that financial risk, specifically looking at how do we simplify the supply chains, increase the lifetime, lower manufacturing cost, and something that's going to be less energy intensive for manufacturing purposes. As mentioned, the two topics for this solicitation is promoting the research and development for industrial manufacturing of early stage, and I fixed that typo there, perovskite tandem PVs. They call it primes. And the second topic is improving the market potential of the cadmium telluride, and they call that the impact PV. And so each of these has different goals and objectives. We looked at some of the FOA details on the previous webinar. Hopefully you've seen that. But topic 1 is up to 20 million, and topic 2 is up to 16 million. And looking, topic 1 is up to 36 months, and topic 2 also is 36 months, but can be about 12 months. And again, the details are in the solicitation, and some of the details are also in the previous webinar. Topic 2 is also looking at a demonstration. And this is just general information about the admin requirements for this submission. Only PDF, it's got to be in English, standard page size, 1-inch margins. It's got to be 12 points. So don't go and reduce it to 10 points because that's not part of the requirements. You have to use your control number. And I give here an example of how the file names should be named. Page numbers have to be on the footer. Don't exceed the page number given per the solicitation. Any questions, send them to the EERE. And as you're aware, the University of Arizona Center for Innovation, UACI, who I'm representing and working with today, is one of the educational services resources available, as are the ADL Ventures and the Entrepreneur Futures Network. And if you're going to have files that exceed the 50 megabytes, make sure you break them down into multiple files with a numbering convention. Okay, so the components of the application are all outlined in this table. And the table is also on the FOA. I just copied it here as an example. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of components. Each of them have their page limit requirements. They outline the file naming convention. Today, we're only going to focus on the technical volume, and I might touch through the presentation a little bit on letters of commitment, support, and other things of that sort, a little bit possibly on the abstract. Okay, so when we look at the requirements of the technical volume, you're looking at no more than 17 pages, and don't go over the limit. And it must be submitted in PDF format. You must conform to all the content requirements, and we're going to look at the structure for those. Conform to the page limits. And when you write your proposals, make sure you understand the review criteria, because your story has to be told in such a way that you you address the review criteria and write to it. And of course, there's naming conventions. Make sure you include all the citations and references as needed. Okay, so let's look at the technical volume. So here again, I got all this information from the FOA, and you could go for more details there or ask questions when you have them. But the technical volume is going to be broken up into a cover page, project overview, technical description, innovation and impact, your work plan, technical qualifications and resources, and there's also an addendum that could be at maximum 2 pages, specifically addressing topic 1. And you'll see through the presentation that a lot of the requirements are also specific to topic 1. They don't apply to the cadmium telluride topic 2, but you should be mindful to address the topic 1 additional requirements. In this table, you're going to see also the percent of the volume. So use this as a guideline to how many, the amount of effort and amount of pages you're going to put in, because they're kind of correlated, right? So if you have a 10-page proposal, which you won't for the technical volumes between 15 and 17 pages. But as an example, if it was 10 pages, about 1 page for this, about 4 for this, and so on. So if we look at the overview, this is an outline of the information that should be in that project overview. When you're talking about the background, to give a little bit of history about your company, why are you capable and have the expertise to respond to this? Do you have success stories, relevant success stories related to this kind of work? And what are you currently doing? And when you're talking about the project goal related to the topic's goals, right? So go back and explicitly explain how you're going to address those goals. Why are you, how and why are you an improvement of what currently is being done? And there I put in what's specific to topic 1. And I'm not going to discuss the details of that because they're outlined on the FOA. But also, what's the impact as it relates to DOE and their goals? And how with this money you're going to create that impact. So in the description of your innovation and impact, this is the most important section. So we're going to be having about 40% of that. So what are the relevance of what you're doing as it relates to the topic, and what do you expect the outcomes to be? So give a detailed description of the technology, its relevance to the project, what are your project goals, how are you going to achieve them, how are you going to measure that success? And specifically, as you're talking to the milestones and outcomes of a project. For feasibility, how are you going to demonstrate that this is technically feasible, and how are you going to be able to achieve those? So describe on your proposal how you're going to do that. And how does it compare to the current state of the art? So what is currently available and what you're going to do that's better. So you're going to be, and typically I recommend like having an advantage table where you can outline the features and what distinguishes your technology against the state of the art, and what are the benefits and the advantages. And that way it helps you then describe that. So that's just one way of doing it with a table as well. Your work plan is 25%. You're required to give a schedule and what are going to be your project goals. And they want that to at least as minimum requirement to use the SMART way, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely goals. And one way to look at this is, outline your goals, what questions you're going to ask, how you're going to do it, and what are going to be your milestones and how you're going to measure them, right? DOE also wants you to have go and no-go decision points. And so typically you do these like on a yearly basis so that you don't get really complicated. And they outline how to do it and what they want you to do for that as well in the FOA. And what are going to be these intermediate milestones. For task descriptions related back to your schedule, one good way to do all this is typically using a work breakdown structure, which will align all your milestones, goals, objectives to your task descriptions and to your schedule. So make sure that on your task, you relate them back to your objectives, how long it's going to take this, who's going to be doing it, and what specifically are you going to do it. And make sure that you understand and relate it to your budget, because that's also something very helpful with the work breakdown structure. It tries to relate everything back to a budget. Our requirements also to do project management. So who's going to be doing what and how it relates to the risk management. So it's going to be very important for you to identify what are the risks and how you're going to mitigate and manage them and bring it back to your project management process. You're required to do a milestone summary. So what are your milestones? Outline them such that you use the SMART technical milestone measures and at least one milestone per quarter. And make sure that these are verifiable milestones. Go and no-go decision points. Provide a summary of what these decision points are going to be related to your work plan. This is another way of mitigating risks. If you come to a point where you just can't no longer manage a risk, or you identify something that isn't going to prevent you, it's not going to be feasible, technically feasible. So you've got to, that's a no-go, right? No reason to continue. And then how do you relate it to your technical success within each performance period? Have at least one project-wide decision point for each budget period. So earlier I said typically you do it one per year. So that's one way of addressing these project-wide decision points. And how does it relate back to the criteria to evaluate why you made that decision? And the smart way of doing it is just one way that will make things easier. And of course, it's a requirement by the DOE. For the project management, again, we're looking at identifying risks and mitigating them. So when you're discussing your project management process, what's your overall approach? What are the roles of your team members? What's the relationship between them? What practices are you going to be using for both financial and managing the progress of your project and the work that your team members are going to be doing? What risk management approach are you going to be using? How are you going to address project changes? And if you have a quality management system in place, if it's applicable, describe it, right? And how are you going to communicate between your team members and your partners and your customer? The qualifications of your team is weighted at 25%. So this is very important too. So make sure, not only do you want to make sure that your teammates, your subcontractors are qualified, make sure that they are also hopefully not foreigners. If they are, make sure you get that exception in place and you've discussed that as soon as possible. But describe what's unique about them. Why are you qualified? Why are you going to be the best candidate to do what you're going to propose to do? And that also includes where you're going to do the work and what equipment you have. Maybe either you have it or you're partnering so that you have the ability to perform that work. Do you have previous relevant work? make sure that you brag about it, right? Because that's going to determine to the reviewers that you are well suited, qualified, and have the expertise, and that reduces risk. And how much time people are going to, each of your team members are going to commit. Are you partnering with one of the national labs, for instance? Make sure that you include their qualifications and why you're partnering, what they're doing, and what are the roles, what business agreement you have, how you're going to integrate with your project management efforts, how it relates to decision-making process. Do you have any publication arrangements? What are you going to do about IP? That's going to be very important, and how you're going to talk to each other. Okay. So other documents, this goes back to that original table before we started talking about the technical volume. So make sure you have all the resumes, you have letters of commitment from your partners, letters of support were relevant, and you have to do a statement of project objectives or SOPO. The applications through the SF 424, and you need a budget justification workbook. You will also need a summary and abstract that has to be non-proprietary information because this becomes public. You'll need a summary slide. If applicable, a budget justification. If applicable, if you're partnering with a federal institution. And then you'll need to disclose if you're doing any lobbying activities, any waiver requests. You will need a community benefits plan and any current and pending support because they want to make sure you're not double dipping, and any previous reviewer comments. Okay. So this the summary and abstracts for public release. So again, no proprietary information has to be here. Follow the guidelines or the requirements for the page limit, the margins, and the font. It has to be self-contained. If this is what's going to grab the attention of reviewers, who are you? Who's the principal investigator? What's the title? What are the objectives? Description of a project. What are the high-level methods employed? What's going to be the potential impact? And who are the major participants? One page. And so this is where you showcase your writing skills to put all this into one page. It's not easy. And there's additional requirement for topic 1 and use the naming convention. Summary slide, again, required. Another technology summary. Be succinct, be to the point, be very clear. And what's its impact? What are the project goals? If there's a graphic, here's your chance to put it in. Sometimes, figure says a million words, they say, right? So sometimes that's what grabs me. I'm very visual. I see something, and if I get it, and it gives me, that wow effect, they're up to something. This is key. Don't leave it to the end to have some good graphics of your innovation and process. It makes a difference. And you can always reuse it for other purposes too. What's the key idea and takeaway? And then who's going to be doing it? And how much money you're asking, and propose cost share amounts. So topic 2 requires a single slide, and topic 1 has those additional requirements. Concept paper this is the review criteria. And remember, we already submitted the concept paper, but this is how they will be evaluating it based on the applicant. What do they have a unique innovation? Are they advancing the state of the art? Have you identified the risk, regulatory or otherwise, and your team? So I bring this up because this has to carry on in the story of your application. You need to submit letters of support and commitment from all your third-party or your subcontractors and how much they're going to be doing cost share. I'm not going to discuss cost share because I'm not an expert in accounting, but make sure that you read on the solicitation the requirements for the cost share and if they're going to be doing in-kind versus cash and so on and so forth. That's very important to make sure that you outline how the cost share is going to be provided and included on that letter of commitment and support. And save them all into one file with the naming convention. And so there's going to be the letters of support and letters of commitment, each of them into one file. So concatenate them and put them into all the commitment ones in one, all the support ones in other. For the technical review criteria, here's kind of the breakdown for each of the topics. And note that it's slightly different, right? And most likely the difference here comes because in topic 2, you're doing also demonstration. So how you're going to be doing it in your team is probably going to be more critical than in the other one. That's why it's weighted a little bit higher. But they're about the same. So don't let this tip you over. But this is basically when you look at how the reviewers are going to be looking at your different components of your application, this is how it's going to be scored. So for the technical merit, innovation, make sure that you have a very clear understanding of innovation, the scientific merit, what are going to be the results. Do you have the buy-in of your stakeholders? And here what's also important is to relate it back to your market transformation plan, which basically is how you're going to commercialize, right? So you've got a really good innovation, has technical merit, but if you can't commercialize it and take it to market, then it's not going to be such a good proposal because the risk of taking it to market is going to outweigh the risk of the technical merit, right? So make sure that you understand how you're going to take it to market. And I know that there has been several webinars related on commercialization. So make sure if you haven't done so already, that you take the time to go through them. Again, address the risk mitigation factor. And here's also where letters of support and who you're going to be working becomes very important. Project management, don't oversee this. Your company has to have a good management plan. Got another typo there. So identify the risk, how you're going to measure them. What are you going to be your metrics for success in your deliverables? And use the SOPO, which is one of the attachments anyways for your program. Your team and resources, the capability of each of your program managers and their qualifications is going to be very important. And where you're going to be doing the work is also very important. If you don't have a place to do the work with the right equipment, you're not going to be able to be successful. At least that's the way it's going to show. So make sure that you don't underestimate the power of making a good description of your facilities and your equipment. Are you teaming with consortia and or other partners? Make sure that you describe the reasons and their capabilities because they're part of your team as well, and get those letters of commitment. Make sure that you also everything you write in your plan goes back to your budget, and that you have a reasonable budget and put in place for the scope of your work and your teammates. Community benefits plan, we've discussed this also in the first webinar. There's 3 objectives that you have to address in the benefits plan. There's no getting around this. You've got to address how you're going to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, how you're going to contribute to energy equity, and how it's going to impact that workforce. So the evaluation and selection process, it's going to be multi-phased to determine both eligibility and technical. There might be a pre-selection interview of 1 or more applicants in case they need to clarify the content or have some questions on your application. They're going to be done by the EERE, and the location's TBD. And expenses, if it's not going to be on your site, will probably be at your own expense. You have to pay for that. And typically, these are for clarifications. So in summary, please start early, register early. By now, you've already submitted your concept paper, and the application is due no later than December 12th, but make sure that you submit earlier. Don't wait till December 12th. And then read the solicitation and follow the instructions, and reach out when you have any questions. You can do so by email or registering for our office hours.